Welcome to the Time Variance Authority. I'm Miss Minutes, and it's my job to catch you up before you stand trial for your crimes. So settle in.
Now, hang on just a minute.
And we'll get you in front of a judge in no time.
Who actually believes this crap?
Sir, I'm gonna use your ticket.
No. Thanks for visiting the TVA. Don't hesitate to let us know how we're doing.
What do you want from me? You put our timeline in chaos. I want you to help us fix it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Trusting Loki is not a good idea.
Do I get a weapon?
Gear up.
Don't those
Absolutely not.
Original series streaming Wednesday, June 9th, only on Disney+.
Welcome back, everyone. We have a brand new Loki trailer to break down from episode 1. This is basically the opening scene. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here with some footage from later in the episodes. I'll be doing videos for all the episodes, so if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all those videos. And we're doing a giveaway for Disney Plus memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave all your theories about what's actually going on during the Loki series. So I love the way they open this trailer with them opening the doors to the elevator and then taking him to the processing queue, and you actually hear the voice of Miss Minutes, and we get a little more information about what's actually going on with her. As I predicted, she's sort of like the Jarvis AI that they're using to run a lot of these systems, and you can kind of see her in all these monitors here processing Loki as he comes in, like, welcome to the Time Variance Authority. But then you see him getting hauled in right after they capture him holding the Tesseract. Like later in the trailer, you actually see him walking around these rooms inside this office here with all these people shuffling paper and looking at the timeline on these monitors, and he's still holding the Tesseract in his hand. I love the imagery there, like he's so dumbfounded and has no idea what's going on and is kind of afraid. So even though he's holding an Infinity Stone in his hand, he has this amazingly powerful item. He just doesn't know what to do with himself. He's so confused. Then he sort of gets the same type of dressing down scene with them processing him and putting him in those prisoners' clothes, the same way that Thor got processed at the beginning of Thor Ragnarok. So you probably sense some parallels here. Whatever's going on with this machine here, I love the fact that it seems like it's intelligent and it's like frowning at him as it's trying to take all of his clothes off and push him down to the next floor. And Loki just can't stand it, like, hang on a minute, just wait a minute before you take all my clothes away. That they might be cutting this kind of funny, but the way they're implying is that they just put the clothes on him as he's falling to the next floor, and they get ready to process him through this door here. Even if you don't live inside the United States, every country has a version of this type of governmental office that you have to stand in some epic line, and it's the most terrible experience ever. Then, typical Loki, he just tries to turn it into this big joke, like, you expect me to take this seriously? This is all just completely ridiculous. And they do another Thor Ragnarok style scene where he watches another dude get melted, or really vaporized in this case. It's just like the scene of Thor being processed in Ragnarok. He comes through that Willy Wonka style nightmare scene and is completely confused about what's going on, then immediately turns to watch the Grandmaster melt someone with his quote-unquote melting stick. Someone bring me my melting stick, and it just turned into this big comedic scene of him being grossed out. Remember, this version of Loki did not experience the events of Ragnarok. He just came from the events of the first Avengers movie, like he just got thrashed by the Hulk. You can read some of the text on the monitors in the background here. It just reads Time Variance Authority's logo, and then underneath it, it says, for time, always, as if that's part of their motto. But then underneath that, there is more text. It's just a little too small to read, so we'll have to wait for the actual episode. Maybe we'll get a close-up of that. We get another really good look at the Timekeeper's Citadel at the end of time, only this time it seems like the scene is happening at night, or maybe this is just exposed to space, and that's what we're seeing, the blackness in the background. Then this is probably part of that scene of him being judged by Renslayer here, Gugu Mbatha-Ra's character. You see Mobius in the back of this courtroom here, so he's probably been monitoring Loki ever since he arrived at the TVA, and just kind of watching this play out, waiting for his opportunity to come up and advocate for him. They intercut a couple different scenes, like them going to this Roxxon version of a Walmart, like Rock's cart is from later in one of their missions that they go on. But then you see him walking around a couple of the other buildings and the rooms inside the Time Variance Authority, just learning about these things, as Mobius narrates the stakes of the series, like, you broke the timeline really badly, we need you to fix it now. This room is just designed to look like the rooms that you see in the comic book version of the TVA. It's just like rows and rows of desks that go on for forever. Very Hitchhiker's Guide, very Doctor Who, like the bureaucracy from hell. This scene of the path of the energy arcing around this giant planetoid or this asteroid here seems like it's either the Bifrost or the path of the Tesseract, the Space Stone, as he's trying to escape. The Tesseract and the Bifrost basically open wormholes through space, or the Space Stone is what's doing all the work. It's just inside the Tesseract. So the wormholes themselves don't have to be straight lines. They can curve however you want them to. It's just that we haven't spent a ton of time in the Thor movies showing that, because it's usually just scenes of Thor and other people leaving to go somewhere, like point of departure, or showing him arriving, like the epic Avengers Infinity War scene with him coming to the Battle of Wakanda. Still one of the best scenes from that movie. The funny thing about this scene with him, with the daggers going up against Judge Renslayer here and these other troopers, seems like it's actually from later in the series or later in the episode after he's gotten his daggers back, because they do have that funny tag scene at the end of this trailer where they're heading out on a mission and they're in the locker room here and he's like, do I get any weapons? And Mobius hands him his trademark daggers. But then that same giant trooper who hauled him in the first place is like, hell no, you don't get a weapon, and yoinks him back. Love the setup here where Loki's like, what could possibly go wrong? And then they show you a bunch of things going wrong. This fight scene of Loki seems like wherever it's happening is designed like an M.C. Escher painting with these staircases just twisting around all over the place. And I'm sure these masked troops he's fighting belong to an alternate version of himself, another evil Loki that he's trying to stop. But I can't tell which designs these troops are based on from the comics. They seem like they're part of the same force of troops that Loki is fighting in this green Loki-themed fortress here. Like obviously this belongs to an alternate version of Loki. There are a couple creepier, darker looking structures that he approaches during the other trailers, like some of the alternate Lokis are more comedic versions, like President Loki seems hilarious in this alternate version of post-apocalyptic Earth, but some of the versions he goes after will probably be more evil, more twisted. They've only shown us a couple of the alternate Lokis. There's a lot of rumors about other, even crazier versions of Loki that we'll see during the series. But some of these structures do seem more traditionally Asgardian in their design, so I'm assuming that means we'll visit a couple different versions of Asgard in these alternate timelines. Like in this one, we actually see him inside Odin's throne room, and it's just meant to be another version of him ruling over Asgard like he did at the end of Thor the Dark World, or the end of the first Thor movie before Thor came back. Only the implication is that in this timeline something's gone seriously wrong, otherwise they wouldn't be trying to close it down. The whole idea being that as terrible as Loki seems, as much of an antagonist at the beginning of the series, he's on his hero's arc. He will slowly, eventually, become a good character. I am so curious to see what happened in this timeline where it seems like Earth's moon has cracked apart, like something crazy has happened. Then they end with that DB Cooper scene with him jumping at the back of the plane and the bills flying out of his briefcase. That's a big reference to D.B. Cooper in real life, who, if you're not a big true crime fan, it's actually this very infamous case where he hijacked an airplane in midair in the early 1970s, stole a bunch of money, and was never caught. So there were all kinds of theories about what happened to him. The authorities were only ever able to find a couple of bills that had fallen in the flight path of the plane itself, so they assumed that he had jumped out the back of the plane into another plane or somewhere else, or parachuted somewhere else. But in the United States, it's one of the more famous unsolved heist cases. So I know a lot of people are wondering if there's some grand twist or revelation that they're building up to with the Timekeepers because of the way they presented that last big scene that they dropped. I did a video for it, so I'll link it at the end of this. While Mobius is busy trying to teach him all about the Time Variance Authority, what they do, why they do it, Loki is just scoffing at everything, like, how dare you? Like, this is all ridiculous, and he calls the Timekeepers space lizards because they look kind of like lizards. Because the series is drawing so much energy on things like Doctor Who, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Rick and Morty, and in those series, usually you have really big organizations that portray themselves like they're helping everyone, like we are the law and order of the galaxy, but then they themselves, the actual organizations, turn out to be pretty rotten themselves. On Rick and Morty, you have the Citadel of Ricks, or even the Galactic Government, both pretty rotten organizations that claim to be good, but they're actually being ruled by evil Morty himself now. The funny connection to the Citadel of Ricks, too, is that it's also based on the Council of Reeds from Marvel, so they're already borrowing from Marvel. It all goes back to Marvel in the end. Maybe someday we'll actually get a Council of Reeds after they introduce the new version of Fantastic Four in those movies. So that's why they have this scene with Loki asking Mobius, like, why is it that you and the Time Variance Authority get to justify what you're doing and orchestrate the lives of trillions of people across the timeline? How absurd is this? And they'll use the story of these alternate Lokis as they chase them down to examine that. Like, who has the right to exist? What right does the Time Variance Authority have to get rid of all these alternate Lokis? And I know everyone's wondering if there's some big conspiracy inside the Time Variance Authority, like if there's going to be some big reveal or twist that they've been infiltrated by someone and they themselves do wind up being kind of the antagonists of the series. I'm trying to be realistic about my expectations with characters like Kang the Conqueror because he would be someone who would try to take over the Time Variance Authority, and he actually kind of did that for a little while during a period of about 1,000 years in the distant future. That was the Immortus version of Kang. The Timekeepers themselves actually made a contract with him to basically rule over a period of about 1,000 years in the future, but eventually he got so powerful that he did start ruling over all time from a citadel that looked a lot like this TVA citadel. Like, at best, I'm expecting them to reveal that there's some problem in the bureaucracy, like there is something wrong with the TVA by the end of the series that they also have to fix. Like, they're fixing timelines, but they also have to fix the TVA itself. It's sort of a Watchmen-style question, like who watches the Watchmen, who polices the police, if they are the ultimate authority in the multiverse. But episode 1 is going to be dropping on June 9th, so for the next couple of weeks, Marvel is going to be doing what they call Loki Wednesdays. They'll probably release new footage every Wednesday. There'll probably be some other stuff happening too. I've got a whole bunch of bonus videos planned, so make sure you have alerts enabled for my channel so you don't miss any of those. Leave all your requests too if there are any big questions or topics that you want me to cover. We'll also get more information and more trailers for some of the other Marvel series and movies that are coming later this year too. Finally getting some Marvel movies that we can actually go see. While you wait for everything, click here for all my other Loki trailer videos and all that new footage, and click here for my brand new Eternals trailer video and Easter eggs and learn how they're setting up X-Men inside the MCU. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.